Hey everyone, Ben the Bar Guy, owner of Here and After Cocktail Tavern in Buckeye Lake, Ohio, and I'm here to help you make better drinks. And today we're gonna go over a really important concept that for professional bartenders and professional bar managers, you're gonna wanna know about, and that's how to manage a comp tab appropriately. Most bars have an allowance for bartenders to give away a certain amount of liquor or beer or whatever each night to make their guests feel happy. But there are some ways that can really harm your business if you don't comp correctly that we should talk about today, just so if you ever have to manage a comp tab, you know what to do and what not to do. So if you're ready to learn about comps, then let's do this. Nux, beer mug, daiquiri. All right, everyone out there, this is a video about a comp tab, how to manage it appropriately. And I'll give you a little background if you aren't familiar in the industry. For bartenders, generally speaking, you get allotted some amount of money by your bar to use at your discretion to give guests something extra. So maybe your guest is a beer and shot drinker and you have the ability to every once in a while buy them their favorite beer or their favorite shot because they're a good guest and they come in a lot and they're a regular, right? And this is how you build business as a bartender. And I think of bartenders as independent contractors in a lot of ways. They're really building a business within a business, right? Because their personality matters and their personality and skill set will drive business to the bar. And so I've always, as a bar manager, thought it advantageous to think of bartenders as independent contractors. And as such, giving them a bit of a slush fund to play with can bring great results to your business as a bar owner or bar manager, because they can make people feel special. And if people feel special in your bar as compared to the bar down the street, then you have a comparative advantage over other bars in your area. However, comp tabs are well known for becoming out of control and getting over the top. Bartenders can find ways to abuse them. Bar managers can sometimes put such a crimp on those comp tabs because of pressure from above, maybe the owners, that there's really not much they can do. And then the whole system kind of falls on its face. There are also really poor ways to comp, which we're gonna go over today. And if that's the case, I understand why owners shut it down, but I would prefer train your staff to do a comp correctly rather than shut down a comp program altogether. There's also the caveat that in some states you can't give away alcohol, so please make sure you follow your state regulations in terms of what you're giving away and how. Let's talk about how historically I've seen most comp tabs work. I worked at a bar that did quite well. It was a little neighborhood / college bar in Washington, D.C. called the Mad Hatter. Shout out to anybody who's ever been to the Mad Hatter. It is a bit of an institution in Washington, D.C. And I worked there for 3 years, and my boss there said that we could have a $50 comp tab. And then if it was gonna be a really big night, on rare occasions, we'd have bar crawls. I was allowed to do 100 as a comp tab. Now, that's not the worst plan, and it kept us to our numbers as far as comps went, but a lot of times it led to issues that could have been better for the business if we'd been given a little freedom to dispense our comp tab maybe some nights at a little higher than $50, or if we had been taught exactly what to give away and what not to give away. At my bars, I always train bartenders on what's more expensive and what's less expensive. And I always train bartenders on how to give away comps correctly. So, couple rules about comps that you're gonna wanna know. Number one, no guest who comes in on the first time ever gets a comp unless they're family or friends. If you don't know them and you want them to become a regular, don't start giving away things right away. It's a bad precedent. Typically you wanna see first, as a bartender, you're not being paid a salary. You're getting paid usually a pretty low hourly, and you're getting paid in tips. So why would you ever give somebody a comp if you didn't know how much they're going to tip you? You wanna make sure they're a good tipper, okay? The other thing is, you don't wanna shoot yourself in the foot by giving something away that you could have given to a better regular that day that's never gonna come back into your bar. So you wanna make sure you always see these people on multiple occasions before you start giving away things. You also wanna see how they tip. I would never give a comp to somebody who doesn't tip me at least 20% unless they really do show up all the time. Or maybe their bill's really big and maybe they always come in and spend 150 bucks, but I see them all the time as well, and then they tip me 30 on the $150 tab. You know, that's okay. But somebody who tips me 10% regularly, I'm not going to comp things, and there's two reasons for that. One, they haven't shown me appreciation, so I'm not sure why I would show them appreciation for them being a guest if they don't show appreciation for me being their server. That's granted if I've served them well, okay? I don't expect 20% tips with not flawless performance as a server or bartender. So that being understood, we've given good service. They tip 10%, they tip 15% regularly, even though they enjoyed the service. If that's the case, and there's no real reason why, like maybe they don't tip on wine, or maybe they don't tip on tax, I take those things into consideration. But if they really are just a 10 to 15% tipper, I'm not going to show them appreciation with free things if they don't pay me to do the job that I've done. And as the system goes, that's how we decide. If they don't understand the system, I'm not going to invite them into the comp system, okay? So I don't give people who don't tip well comps. Another thing you're gonna wanna consider as a bartender, because you work mostly for tips, is that when you give something away, a check can drop. And so you really need to focus on how the regular tips you. If Bill gets something for free and didn't tip you an extra $1 or $2 that he normally would have, log that. Keep that in mind. But if Bill gave you something extra, you really want to log it. When I got things extra at a bar, because I'm a bartender, I understand how the system works, you probably got like double the tip or substantially more in a tip. I usually think, hey, I'll split it with the bartender. He gave me an $8 shot. I'll give them $4 extra in tips. And so if you're seeing that from your regulars, pay attention. When that person comes in, much more likely to give something a little extra to the guy who tips me extra or the woman who tips me extra based on what I actually gave them as opposed to what their tab says. That feeds into, don't ever take things off a check and expect people to tip more. You can't really do that. If you're gonna take something off someone's check, you're gonna give them a lesser check, and then they tip you 20% on that, you just kicked yourself in the foot. So make sure you're not taking money off the check that they would have given you and then tipped on it. It hurts you to do that. As a bartender, you're making less money every time you give somebody a smaller check if they only tip on what the check says. And if you continually make the mistake of giving things away to people who will tip you less once you do so, you're hurting the business substantially, but you're also shooting yourself in the foot. It can cost you rent over the course of a year. Lastly, and this is a test I give all of my staff. Whenever I hire somebody, I always teach them this process. What kind of comp are you giving away? And here's a little test that I give my bartenders or future bartenders, and I have them think about what's the best way to comp. So let's say you have a guest who comes into your bar quite often. He's a good tipper. This is your good regular. You've gotten to know them, you know their name. Let's say their name is Bill. He's nice to people. He makes your bar a better place, right? This is the quintessential person you want to give a comp to. Let's also imagine in this example that Bill's responsible. He's not driving drunk. You're not giving him extra alcohol in any way that could lead to someone's harm or drunk driving or something like that, right? So he's okay to have something extra. And I give my bartenders these 3 tests, these 3 scenarios, and see which one is the best way to comp. And then I have them rank the other 2 as well. But let's say Bill is a drinker of beer and shots. And so he'll have a whiskey with his beer, maybe 1 or 2 whiskeys and 1 or 2 beers every night, comes in, tips well, and then leaves. So in scenario number 1, Bill comes in once again and you're ready with a beer. You say, Bill, good to see you, my friend. I got your hazy little thing IPA from Sierra Nevada like you always drink. And you say, hey, that's on me. I'm glad you're here. Bill says thank you and has his beer, and that goes on a comp tab. So you turn around and you ring it on the comp tab. Here's scenario number 2. Bill comes in, he has his 2 beers per usual, his 2 shots per usual. And then at the very end, you say, Bill, you're such a great guy, so I'm gonna buy you your hazy little thing beer, crack it open, and as he's drinking his beer you gave him, he pays out his tab. So in this case, you've given him a beer at the end of his little visit. Now, 3rd scenario, Bill asks for his tab and you say, great. You come over with a nip of his favorite whiskey and you say, Bill, it's good to see you. I'm gonna do a little shot with you, or if you're not allowed to do a shot, hey Bill, enjoy this shot on me. I appreciate your business. Bill says, thanks very much. And he shoots the whiskey and he goes about his day. Now, in all these cases, Bill feels special. You feel good for taking care of Bill, and just say the tip is the same. What's the best way to comp? Situation 1, 2, or 3. What's the best way to comp for the business? And this is where you guys need to understand a very simple thing about dollars and what they mean. Not every dollar is the same. And this is where I'll get back to how I was given a $50 comp tab as a bartender. I was always frustrated by this, and the reason is that there were Tuesday nights where we had a little trivia at Mad Hatter. It was great, but I might only sell $600, $700, maybe 1,000 if I was lucky, and I still got the $50 comp tab. But on the weekends, I would sell between $3,500 and $5,000, and that's substantially more. But yet my comp tab was always the same. And for me, I thought it would have been wiser to go by a percentage system. What percentage of your sales can you comp? And the owners could have said it's 5%. Industry standard should be 8 to 10% if you're running a comp program. That means on Tuesdays I would have been doing $30, but on a Friday, I could do much more. I could do maybe 100 if I sold $5,000, right? And the comps would have come out the same, but based on my sales, I would have gotten more leeway to, on my busier nights, make people feel special. But even that doesn't quite work, does it? Because on my slow nights is when I really need to be building regulars. So it should be gathered over the course of a week. I should probably on a busy night when I'm in the weeds, grinding my way through everyone who needs stuff to drink, that's not the time to build regulars and give something extra away. That's time to put money in your pockets and make money for the business. So it should be calculated over the week. If I have a Tuesday that averages $600 in sales and a Friday that averages $5,000, we should allow me to comp $100 on a Tuesday, but $30 on a Saturday, as long as you don't go over the total of $130, right? In our example. So this is where I want you guys to think a little bit smarter about where the dollars come from and when they're being given away. You want to use comps to build business. You want to build regulars. It's a much better system to not just say 50 all the time, but to do it over time and measure over time how your bartenders are giving things away. But here's the real key, and this goes back to these examples. A comp dollar can be retail or wholesale. And this is the difference between a lot of open bars and a lot of closed bars. Not every comp is the same dollar when it comes to the business. And I'll explain. If you give Bill a beer when he walks in the door, that is what we call a retail comp. Because you know Bill was going to buy a hazy little thing, and he was definitely going to drink that hazy little thing. Let's just say we sell this at $5. Well, you just gave him and took out of the coffers of the business $5. That's a retail comp. He would have drank this anyway. That's $5 that didn't go in your till that night. Compare that to the beer you give in the second example at the end, where Bill has gotten close to drinking what he usually drinks. You're giving him an extra beer, and you say, Bill, this one's on me. Now, there's two things that can happen there. Bill might have a third drink, and then say, you know what, that was really nice. That third drink was free, but I'm gonna order another one. That's another beer he wouldn't have ordered had you not given him one of these. That's why when you go to Irish bars, you often get tokens after the second or third drink. They'll give you a token for a fourth. And the reason is they want you to stick around, they want you to feel good, but it looks like a retail comp, but they're hoping for a sale down the road. That's a little bit better. It's still a retail comp in the second scenario to give Bill this beer at the end of his day, but by far the best way to comp is to give Bill something he'll appreciate that is a wholesale comp. And what I mean by that is he wasn't gonna buy an extra, he wasn't gonna buy another one for sure. He was getting ready to leave. He's asked for his bill, okay? He's actually bought everything he's going to buy from you that day. And then you give him a shot of whiskey. And I don't mean a full shot. If you notice, this is like an ounce, maybe less is what you should give, 3/4 of an ounce to a guest in this scenario. And the reason is that is a wholesale comp. When you sell a whiskey, it's maybe $7, $8. But when you buy whiskey in a case, this amount of whiskey is roughly 60 cents to $1, maybe even 50 cents. So you've given Bill 50 cents and you ring all this stuff up on your computer. It says the retail price, but in actuality, you've given away 50 cents. So the comp percentage and the comp dollar that you put in there isn't actually the cost of the whiskey. And this is really important. If you give away things that would have gone on a check anyway, you're giving away retail dollars, $5. $5 you gave away, 50 cents you give away, right? That's 10 times the loss by not giving it away like you do in a third scenario. Now, if they're your friend or they're your family member, I understand you can give someone a comp, but if you're getting to know Bill and you want him to feel special for the first time, you give it at the end and it's a wholesale comp, not a retail comp. Here's another thing that you need to consider. Bill is about to get up in scenario 2, and you're pretty sure he's done drinking. So you've given him this beer. Well, now he's got to sit and drink it, right? Beer takes a lot longer to drink than an ounce of whiskey. So think about this. You need that seat. You need that seat so you can start a new tab. You don't want Bill, no offense to Bill, he's a good regular, but you don't want Bill sitting at your bar, sucking down a free beer for another 20 minutes when you could have given that seat to a couple who's gonna spend a whole new check because Bill shot his one shot and off he went. So think about time. Shots are easier and quicker to drink. dabble of whiskey or a favorite tomorrow, something after dinner, those things go down quickly, and therefore your seat's available for a new paying customer. And scenario one is really losing for another reason that oftentimes people don't see, and that's because this beer is replacing a beer that Bill might have already had. He wanted to give you money for a hazy little thing, but you gave him one, so now he's not going to give you money for this beer or the next one, right? Because he may not get to drink 3 now, because you gave him drink 3 already, right? He might still do his 2 beers and a shot, or 2 beers and 2 shots, but he's not gonna do that third because you already gave him one. And you locked that in. You guaranteed you weren't gonna get that next sale down the road. Whereas in scenario 3, you've waited till he's given you every dollar he's gonna give you that night. He asked for his bill. So you know he's not giving you any more money that night. Now is the time to give away a comp. Make someone feel special. Oftentimes at our bar, we would serve, on the end of our check presenter, we would serve the whiskey and say, hey man, thank you. That's the best way to give away a comp. So one example of understanding what products cost that's really important is I've talked about Bill coming in and ordering beer and a shot of whiskey, but I didn't say what whiskey. I think every bartender should know what things cost wholesale behind the scenes. A perfect example is at Reliable Tavern, we only sold cocktails at one price, $12, but everything we used in the cocktail changed in prices drastically. So a perfect example is I said Bill drinks whiskey. Well, this is bourbon whiskey and this is rye whiskey. What Bill drinks matters because rye is about 50% on average more expensive than bourbon is by the bottle cost. When it comes to cost of bottle, where this might cost 50 cents an ounce for a shot giveaway, Old Overholt, you're looking at more like 90 cents. You really want to know what to give away. There are certain things that are really expensive. I know bartenders who give away a lot of green and yellow chartreuse. It's really expensive. These bottles have shot up because of the cocktail world to $50 a bottle. You don't want to be giving away shots of that unless it's a really special shot. So make sure your bartenders understand cost. Another thing you want to consider is how much are you giving away? I like to give away a half ounce of these things, maybe 3/4 of an ounce of these things. Keep costs under control that way. You also keep Bill from being too drunk to drive. That's a good thing, right? Here's something that bartenders in general use like as if it's salt or seasoning and it's no big deal, which, you know, when you dabble a little bitters into something, that's not really a huge cost. It's maybe 10 cents. But some bartenders I know love shooting Ango, which is actually pretty delicious and I like it. Unfortunately though, these bottles are quite expensive if you start pouring half ounce, 3/4 ounces of Angostura bitters. That's multiple, if a dash of Ango is 10 cents, a shot of it is going to be $2, $3, right? So you're giving away much more than you probably should be for a comp or value add, but you should be very careful about what you give away and your bartender should know what things cost. All right, so just to review, if you're a bar manager, you really need to give away comps over a period of time and track how your bartenders give those away over a period of time. Your comp percentage matters, but exactly what's in the comps and how they were given away matters. Are they wholesale or retail? Then, are your bartenders giving them away when there's for sure no way that your guest was going to order anything else? You don't want to replace future sales with a comp now. And if you're bar managing or you're a bartender, make sure that you are using your comps on days that are a little slower, probably more, than on days when you're a little faster. So you can build business on slow days. I hope you guys enjoyed that video on comps. I hope your guys' bars are giving away comps in the right way. Stay safe, make sure you don't give people too much alcohol and overserve them, but you can make them feel special and build your business. Make sure you're giving away wholesale comps, not retail comps. You don't want to close your bar because you're giving away 10x what you could have with a wholesale comp. I hope you guys have a great day. To better drinks. Cheers.
With the bass on the stereos booming, and I hear the pump